Today's episode of Pool Magazine podcast is brought to you by Lyon Financial. Partner with the leader in swimming pool loans to make backyard dreams come true. Lyon Financial offers the best options in the industry, including rates as low as 2.99%, terms up to 30 years, and loans up to $200,000. Make your customers' dreams an affordable reality. Call Lyon Financial today.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine podcast. Today we're chatting with Danny Wang, one of the top designers working today. His Southern California-based design build firm has won numerous awards for their stunning designs and has established a reputation over the past decade as the go-to source for high-end luxury outdoor living concepts in SoCal. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today on the show, Danny.
It was nice to be on the show. Thanks for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Hey, listen, before we get started, I was hoping that you can give me a little bit of background about your firm and talk about how you first got started in the industry.
So my firm started about 16 years ago, so 2006. And the way I got into the business is my dad was also a contractor. But the way I got into the business is I actually have a finance background in college in real estate development. And that was the field I was going to pursue. While pursuing that career, I figured, construction is a big part of real estate development because that's usually what makes the number work. So I thought, my dad had a general construction company. Let me go work in construction and figure out like how the numbers work, all that stuff. So for the future, when I'm doing real estate development, I have a general knowledge of what's going on.
Sure.
So I worked with my dad throughout the college, and after I got out, obviously we had a little falling out. So he kind of forced me to start my own business. And I did. So I started my own business when I was 24. I didn't know too much, but I knew that, I wanted to do something on my own. So I started that and I started doing projects, small projects, big projects. And about 6 years ago, I started dabbling into design. And that was kind of eye-opening, and that's kind of where it transformed me to what I do today.
So you started off in construction and then you took a completely different trajectory. I mean, what was the catalyst? I mean, what made you begin to seriously focus on design?
So this was all by coincidence. I had a friend that reached out, during 2017. At that time, I had a lot of business and I made a mistake, right? As a lot of people do, I took on way more than I could chew. Okay. And, so I think at that time I had about 50 projects in the backlog, and I was doing about 30 projects at once. And it was brutal. And we were losing money left and right. And I thought, well, okay, I need to take a break from doing what I'm doing to catch up, right? And another is funny because another was a friend in the industry. He was like, well, how are you selling all these jobs? Because at that time I didn't know, at all I could design or my designs were like worth anything, right?
Right.
So he approached me. He's like, well, hey, I have this project. I want to bring you on as like a salesperson. So I was like, okay. By then I was already doing some design work. And, so I went on the project with him. I designed the project. And of course, it was a pretty large project. It was like a $700,000-800,000 project, and we closed it, right? Because that's usually the ballpark that we work in. So we closed the project, and he actually turned to me. He's like, "Oh, you're actually you're pretty good at design." And at that moment, it didn't really register because that's the first time someone's ever said that.
Yeah, you're standing in front of a mountain. You don't know how tall it is, right?
Yeah. So previously actually let's backtrack a little bit. So I got into 3D design. So before I obviously I work with a lot of designers. I have my own designers under in my company. And how I got into 3D design was we had this brief moment where all the designers were extremely busy with project. And I had a couple projects that I need to push out. So I started designing on my own. Right. I started using the software, it was really easy to use. I was like, okay, you know what? Everybody's busy. Let me help out. start designing a couple projects on my own. So that was kind of like the backstory, how I got into even touching a 3D design. And then fast forward about a year later, that's kind of where I went with my friend. I said, I was helping him out, and yeah, he turned to me and said, "Hey, you're actually pretty good at design." And I was kind of shocked. I was like, "Oh, I that's the first time I ever heard of this, right?" Like I didn't know that. So, that kind of enlightened me. It's like, oh, if I'm really good at design, maybe I should pursue it, right? And at that time, I could, and this is at the time I couldn't build anymore, right? Like I couldn't build for like another 2 years, because we just have so much backlog. So I was like, you know what? But I have time to do design. So what I ended up doing was I was doing my projects during the day, and at night I would go home and do design for like other people, or I would just do design only. And that was roughly the same time that I started doing social media, and that was one of the things that just we started doing design. People see it on social media. It kind of just took off from there.
So, I mean, you're totally self-taught on the design side. You didn't go to school for like architectural design or landscape design like a lot of these guys. I mean, you're kind of like the Jimi Hendrix of design, where you're just teaching yourself how to play the guitar,
Well, yes and no, but I think what really helped was I work with a lot of designers, and obviously I built their design, right?
Right.
So I think it's more of I come from a different perspective. I come from the design from the building aspect. So it's like, okay, obviously I work with a couple of top designers. I see what works and what doesn't work, and almost through like osmosis, while building projects for them, their design philosophy kind of infused onto me, right? And of course, I see what works, what doesn't work. From then, we could also say, well, now how much farther could I push the boundary?
Yeah, you say that like it's really like common. I mean,
Yeah, oh, man,
have
I
that
don't
kind
know.
of retention. I mean, most of the guys who work, they're doing their own thing. They're in their own lane, and they're
Yeah.
working hard and they're working on their own stuff. And it takes them years and years and years to pick up the vernacular and the vocabulary and be able to transcend that into their designs at such a pace that you've been able to do that. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I mean, who are some of the designers that have influenced your style?
It's actually one in particular. His name's Paul McLean Architecture, or McLean Designs. They do a lot of really high-end homes. And I remember when I was designing one time, I see him build these crazy pools, that's just massive, right?
Right.
And I looked to myself, I'm like, well, I mean, I know how to build that. I could do it. So I mean, that's really where a lot of these crazy pools and pools I wrap around the house, things like that. That's kind of where I got a lot of the inspiration from. As well, I see him designing water features within his house, and I said, well, I built those things, right? So I could do that. I could do that as well. So I definitely learned, got very inspired by that.
Sure. Paul McLean. Who's another one?
I mean, that's one of the things I don't really look at what other people do.
Yeah, all right.
Or even just looking at them. I get a lot of inspiration from, just different. I think a little bit more is because I'm not from here.
Right.
So, I'm dealing with kind of like global. So a lot of times I would look up, resorts in Bali, resorts in Mexico, resorts in different various parts of the world, and kind of understand their different design language, right? And then taking inspiration from that, converting it into kind of my own language. Versus, I know a lot of guys, they just kind of look at the stuff that's going on in the US, they just kind of look at what other people are doing. So we're taking a little approach is like, okay, let's look globally, right? Let's say, okay, what are these people doing in Bali? What are these people doing in different parts of the world? And then taking, inspiration from those and combining into, what we're designing for our clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of designers that I speak to on my show who talk about how their work is changing people's lives. And that's true for the most part. I mean, but how has your life changed since you got involved in this industry?
Well, my professional life, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not. I'm not really only a pool designer or builder. So we built a whole project. So let's say we'll do the whole house. And what I realized is, to me, the pools has become almost like a work of art, right? Because that's one of the elements that really could distinguish the different components of the house, because each property is different. Each property is, each client has different uses. So we kind of embraced using the pool. I mean, yes, functionally, yeah, you could swim and all that stuff, but really that's using that as kind of like a focal point of the whole entire house. So as we're designing the inside, doing the inside, we're also thinking about the outside. So how to incorporate the pool design element as kind of, the focal point or feature of a house.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, as you are approaching a stage in your career, I mean, many people know your name now. I mean, when we met in Long Beach, there were like folks that were tripping over themselves to shake your hand. They follow you on social media, brother, and I know they know the work, but they don't really know the man. I mean, what inspires and influences your designs, and what drives and motivates you to do what you do on a daily basis?
I think pushing the boundary, seeing what both technological and artistically, I like to see what boundaries you could push, right? Like what have not people seen out, that's been out there. So I think that part really drives me, is being the creative, innovative of the design and build. And I think also seeing a lot of people getting inspired, because I was in a pretty deep spot in my career a couple of years ago, but media, seeing how many, just kind of say, hey, you inspired me to do this. That also kind of help, I guess, make it more fulfilling. So it just kind of drives me to do more of it.
So just drawing inspiration from the people that get inspired by you. I mean, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. It kind of builds on itself. I mean, your following's following you because you're doing amazing work, and then you're doing amazing work because you're getting all this momentum.
Yeah, it's almost like an entertainer, right? It's just now there's entertaining people, also educating people. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that what I noticed is there's a lot of stuff, because now through social media we have a worldwide audience, right? So I didn't know that there were so many different types of building techniques and different elements, through the whole world. So that's really eye-opening, and I learned a lot. I see, also other people learning a lot. So that just kind of, I think that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, well, you're well past the learning phase. You're more in the teaching phase now. When it comes to working with a homeowner, what is your approach for helping them conceptualize the backyard that they're really dreaming about?
Well, lately they just let me do my thing.
So they just give you free reign. They say, hey, make me something, blow my socks off, blow me away.
Yeah. Well, because that's kind of how we screen our clients, right? It's if they're going to be very involved in the process. I mean, that's okay, but more and more what we like is, okay, you guys are hiring me, let me do my thing. Let's, I'll get it done, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if they come in with a preconceived notion, do you just weed them out immediately, or do you just
no? Honestly, we don't, right? We say, okay, so what we'll say, okay, what are your needs and wants? Okay, let me take those, incorporate into my design, right? So of course, I mean, it's not my house, right? So what we have to do is we still have to take what they want, what they need. Let's say if they have, jacuzzi, how many people jacuzzi, they need waterfall, they need slide, all that kind of stuff. So we'll take those elements and put it into what they want, what they need, and then we'll build a design around it.
Well, you're going through that process with them. And you're going through your past portfolio of completed projects. What I love is like how clean and contemporary they are. There's like beautiful lines of sight on these pools and real attention to detail and the usage of the space.
Yeah.
There's a feng shui to these designs that really creates like a harmonious connection between the pool, the home, the backyard, and as it connects to the outdoor living environment. And as you're going through that hit list with them of what's important to them and what elements to add, I mean, what's kind of like your process of working through what's important to the homeowner?
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but it usually only takes me about 5 to 15 minutes to do a design. So like when I walk in the house, I already know kind of what it needs to look like.
You're just freestyling it.
No, I'm not freestyling it. It's almost like, so before I discovered that I could design, this is what I said. Now looking back, this is what I tell people. When I walk into someone's yard, like literally an image of a project pops up in my head. So that's something that, I see it. I don't know how to describe it. Like usually by the time I walk the yard, talk to the homeowner, the design is already done within like 5 to 15 minutes. We built so many pools, and it just, you kind of draw the inspiration from inside outside and say, okay, this is what we could do. And I mean, it's probably just based on experience, right? You build so many pools, you kind of know what could go on, what can't go on. But yeah, I think that's really where, like, it's not like I put a lot of thought into it, right? It's just like, okay, I go into the house and yeah, just these things pop up in my head and execute them. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that's been very, very different, because I have a lot of staff where, they have to draw, they have to think a lot, and just know, like, usually by the time I'm done walking a house, it's already done designing. That's why it's very hard for me to explain. It's just like I see these things in my head, right? It's just that's just how it works.
Well, you've got people that are able to help you articulate those designs and be able to execute them in a really cohesive design plot plan for the homeowner.
Yes.
What are some of the unique challenges that you face in designing and building these types of backyards in Southern California?
Usually the client's budget. I always joke around. I like, when clients ask me what could I do better, right? I was like, well, your budget is limiting my creativity. So I mean, that shit works quite well. I mean, I have a lot of clients and it's like, okay, you know what, go design whatever the hell you want, and then you know. So I think that I mean, I don't think, not everybody could say stuff like that, but I feel like we're very confident in telling our clients that it's like, okay, you guys, what's limiting me is your wallet, right? Or a lot of times we'll say, okay, you guys go, let me do my thing, let me build you a award-winning pool, right? So usually, like, once they hear that, they kind of let me do my thing. But again, I don't think everybody could say that confidently. And then also, I mean, other limiting factors, also we're building very complex pools, so there's only a few people that could also execute it. So a lot of times we build our own projects, but now as I'm working in different parts of the country, it's hard to find people that could execute the design, just because there's technicalities and stuff like that. So yeah, so other challenges, I think terrain, because now that I'm designing all over the country, I noticed that there's not as much, like, let's say example in Florida, there's no hills, right? So I think one challenge here is we do have a lot of mountains, and a lot of my projects are on the slope side. So I think dealing with not just two-dimensional design, now you have a three-dimensional element that kind of puts another factor in there.
Sure. You're dealing with a lot of high-end clients, a lot of high-end customers. I mean, what are some of the emerging design trends to look out for in outdoor living in 2022? I mean, what are you suggesting, and what new elements and components are you incorporating into your projects these days?
I think bigger and crazier water features. Lighting is very important. We're using a lot more lighting versus just the traditional on and off. We're doing smart lighting where we could actually control the water feature lightings, so it creates like a whole nother element of the design.
What kind of lighting?
Water, like kind of like DMX, or it's traditionally everybody uses LED and it just changes color, right?
Right.
Now we're actually using, for a project of mine, and of course the new stuff is complex because I had to figure out how to do it. We're doing kind of like, now you see LEDs, they could have patterns, so you could actually program them.
Yeah.
Right. They'll run or they'll individually light up. So using that to create like a pattern, almost like a musical stage. So I'm dabbling a lot into that kind of stuff, just because I don't see it happening a lot in people's backyard.
Sure.
Also incorporating a lot of living elements, fire pits, barbecues, whatever you could think of. Now we're incorporating a lot of that element into also our pool and backyard. So a lot of focus on that. Again, a lot of indoor, outdoor living. Yes, things like that.
So like those seamless transitions from the indoor to the outdoor living space is what you're talking about?
Yeah. So water features. I think being able to control them, crazier and bigger water features.
All right, shift gears a little bit, Danny. The pandemic was a bit of a paradox, in terms of how it impacted pool builders. I mean, one thing it did was definitely it brought a resurgence of demand on improving the home and the backyard. I mean, it was like a veritable renaissance for design build firms like yours. But how has the pandemic changed the way that you've been doing business over the past couple of years?
It's led us to design a lot in remotely.
So like Zoom and GoToMeeting and stuff like
yes,
that. Yeah.
and that's allow us to open different markets.
Yeah,
So
well, you talked about how you're doing business in Florida, how you're doing business in Texas. I mean, talk a little bit about that.
so I think that's really where the pandemic helped is it made us realize we can actually, well, because everybody kind of got accustomed to Zoom, right? So that allowed us to have Zoom meetings with clients that are thousands of miles away. So I think that really helped. Also brought a huge surge in our social media. So that in a sense brought us more clients because everybody's stuck at home, using their phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really where it helped a lot is bringing a lot of new markets and remote designing.
Well, what were some of the challenges that came with doing business at a distance like that?
Finding good builders to work with, different challenges, different city codes, and just how different areas build and different geology, like different like soils and different just a lot of different things. But we kind of learn from a lot of it.
Well, talk to me a little bit about that, Danny, because you've been a California builder for a while. All right.
Yeah.
And now you're building in Texas, you're building in Florida. I mean, what are some of the differences that you see as far as, regulations, codes, standards, things like that when you're building these kinds of projects?
So a lot of times we haven't done too much projects in Texas. That's just a very difficult market for us.
Right.
Due to cost. So, I mean, but Texas permits, I guess a lot of places in Texas have very lax permit requirements. So you could obtain permits within a day or two versus here. I mean, some municipalities, it's, weeks and months. Another one is Florida, because Florida, I guess a lot of it is by the water. I haven't had to do anything like that over here. So that's taught us a lot. It's like, oh wow, okay, different how to build pools when there's literally like a river next to it, right?
Yeah.
So that's challenging. I mean, I didn't know that's something I didn't know how to do, but also working with people over there, that's what they do every day, right?
Have you
So
had
things like that,
Danny, where you had to build like a seawall or something like that?
yeah, there's definitely that's concerns. Okay, when you dig this pool next to it, how, but because we're working with local builders, they handle that, right? So that's
Right.
one aspect that I don't think about, but after working over there, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You can't just build, it's more like technical. I mean, it gets done. It's eye opening to see how it gets done.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
what are some of the other challenges other than, construction related that you've faced over the past couple of years, just keeping up with unprecedented demand that we've seen?
Supply chain issues, even people that we work with, they have labor problems, poor equipment that used to be able to pick up the day of install, now it takes now it's just scrambling to get them, right? So
Right.
those are very challenging. Another challenging thing working remotely is building that connections, like, okay, who's good, who's not. It's working with different type of personalities. That's a little bit challenging. I think communication, that's a little bit tough as well, because now you're working on projects thousands of miles away versus locally. If there's some problem that come up, you could resolve it rather quickly. Now it's a little bit, so just different. It's not more difficult. I think it's just different.
Yeah, it's tough to put out a fire that's like 3,000 miles away, right?
Yeah, and that's why more and more we try to only work with people that are kind of more established in the business. So then that way we have less of that.
Sure. Well, as we transition into this like post-COVID environment, I mean, are you seeing things begin to return to normal more or less?
No, not yet.
It's still crazy, right?
It's still very crazy. Yes.
So, I mean, what do you perceive the market's going to look like in the upcoming years? I mean, we're dipping into an area now where it's a little bit of the unknown. Like we're seeing a lot of inflation, recession. I mean,
Yep.
what do you think is going to be the outcome for the next 2 years?
Well, I think you're gonna see a consolidation because we've seen this before in 2008 when Aussie were this can't keep on forever. So I'm not sure if we're gonna head into a recession, but definitely a lot of consolidation. You have companies that are taking on way too much project, can't deliver. You're gonna see record number of companies bankrupting.
Mhm.
So I think it's gonna be more of like an equilibrium. The companies that do well, they'll still be in business, and there's a lot of new people that either jump in or they have weak financials or weak operation, they're going to get flushed out. So I think consolidation.
Yeah, this kind of market conditions is definitely like a cracker shaker. That the small pieces kind of fall at the bottom.
Yep. So yeah, so we're just wearing that. I mean, we're sitting, we're not getting too greedy. We're not trying to, have crazy egos. We're just staying tight, do our thing, and then let it work itself out.
That's a solid idea. I mean, I know a lot of people have got that wait and see outlook, but it does look like from what we're seeing on our side that, demand is beginning to kind of deflate from what it was the past prior 2 years.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, I'm totally okay with that because, right now we'll say, let's say we get 100 phone calls. I can only take on one job realistically.
Right.
So even if it drops to 10, I take on 2 jobs. That's already a win, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah. So I mean, for us, we're not too worried about that.
Well, what's up and coming for you this season? I mean, are there any exciting projects that you're looking forward to?
Yes, because we're doing the whole project. We're doing a lot of whole home projects coming up. So not just the pool, we also have the interior, exterior, furnishing, pretty much like a whole entire project. Also, now we're building all these outdoor resorts. I'm going to start dabbling into some of my own properties. So either Airbnb or maybe boutique resorts, maybe getting some hospitality. So stuff like that. So that's something different.
So what were you saying? You're developing your own investment properties, and
like an Airbnb, right? So like,
yeah.
Now we're building multi-million-dollar pools for private clients. Why not build a really cool outdoor living space for people that could come and enjoy it, right? Rent it out. Definitely like Florida, certain parts of California. That's on the list.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I think that's a little bit different because now it's like instead of providing outdoor living just for super wealthy people, now you could, the concept was, if you can't afford it, you could like come and enjoy it, right?
So the net is you're thinking about building your own Danny Wang brand of
hospitality, yeah.
Yeah, hospitality. That's really interesting.
And then a lot of products, so outdoor products. So now we're kind of getting to also developing like product development. So lots of things going on.
Well, your social media following is crazy. I mean, you get something like 1 million on Instagram, like 2 million on TikTok. I don't see a problem with you building up a brand of your own, man.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're focused on. So we're talking with tile manufacturers. We're talking with fire pits. So we're gonna start developing product lines for the outdoors and indoors as well.
Very cool. Well, we'll be on the lookout for that, Danny. Make sure to check out Pool Magazine for the upcoming article with Danny Wang. You can listen to the Pool Magazine podcast and our interview with Danny on podcast.poolmagazine.com. Thanks so much for being with us here today, Danny.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Today's episode was brought to you by Lyon Financial, the leader in swimming pool loans. Lyon Financial offers the best options in the industry, including rates as low as 2.99%, terms up to 30 years, and loans up to $200,000. Thank you so much for listening in. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.